Guys, this is Succession. This is HBO. If you don't want to hear me talking about Logan Roy talking about then don't listen to this. There are bad language words in this show. Hello and welcome to the Logan Fucks Off episode of Slate Money Succession. It all happened this episode. I'm Felix Salmon of Axios. I'm here with Emily Peck, who is the, I think, existing CEO and former general counsel of Slate Money Succession.
Yes, I'm also a markets correspondent at Axios.
I'm here with Elizabeth Spiers, who, if you had to be one Succession character, which one would you be?
Roman, I think. Roman is my favorite character.
So we're here with Elizabeth Spiers, who's the co-COO of Slate Money Succession. And I think the president of Slate Money Succession, Lizzie O'Leary, welcome.
Hello. It's very nice to be back.
You have been on every season of Slate Money Succession thus far. We couldn't not have you. And oh my God, are we happy to have you for this one.
Kind of a big one.
This is the big one. Like, normally the big one is the finale, but this time the big one was episode 3. And well done to them for making the big one episode 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's gutsy. Usually you save this sort of thing for late in the season, but they didn't do that.
And why not? I mean, you know, there are arcs. The whole thing, it's a 4-season arc, and I feel like it's a bit like one of, like, you know, like the Tchaikovsky Pathétique Symphony, you know, where
yes, of course,
the big climax comes at the end of the third movement, and then there's all manner of like weird stuff in the fourth movement, which you always forget about. But yeah, Lizzie is just breaking up.
I'm sorry, it was the Tchaikovsky that got me.
Slate Money is brought to you by Progressive. It's a car insurance company, and you can get quotes very easily. You can get quotes right now, even when you're listening to this podcast. If you are doing the dishes, well, I guess that involves your hands. It would be hard. But if you are doing something which allows you to play around on your phone just a little bit, go to progressive.com. You can get a quote on your car insurance. Don't do this while you're driving, but if you own a car, it's a really good idea. Drivers who save by switching save nearly $700 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Multitask right now. Quote today at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $698 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2021 and May 2022. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
Hey, Tom Sharpling here, the host of The Best Show. And if you've never heard of The Best Show before, everything you need to know is right there in the title. Each week we put on the best live podcast you're ever going to hear, featuring live callers, celebrity guests, music, plenty of surprises. Who knows what's going to happen? Last month alone, we were joined by Conan O'Brien, Patricia Arquette, Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, Nathan Fielder, Sunan Archives, John Oliver. The list goes on and on. So what are you waiting for? Join us live every Tuesday night on Twitch at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and find us the next day on the Forever Dog Podcast Network and wherever you find podcasts.
Emily?
Yes.
You watched this last night on Sunday night. I guess they were worried that we were going to run around and spoil it for everyone.
I mean, they really wanted this to be a surprise. Jesse Armstrong, who wrote the episode, said part of the reason they killed Logan off in episode 3 of the season was because they wanted to do the surprise. And it was shocking, and it had that dual effect of you were sort of in it with everyone learning about this in real time. It almost felt like you were sharing the emotions of the characters in a way because it was so surprising. The episode kind of starts out like any other Succession episode. You know, someone's getting on a plane, someone's in a fight, someone has a secret. Roman is playing both sides, playing the angles, whatever. And then this happens, and the audience is just as surprised and shocked and like trying to figure out if this is real as the characters are, basically.
Yeah, there was a good interview with Armstrong where he said he wanted the audience to experience it the way that people in, modern life very often do experience a parent dying, which is, the parent is somewhere away and you're finding out via text or cell phone. And it did have that feel, like that kind of real time.
Yeah, some weird flat screen that you're learning it from. And I have to say, I do watch every episode twice before doing this show, and I think this is the only episode where it's not as good the second time round, because the first time round is just such a shock. It has that emotional wallop of the unexpected that you just can't get the second time round. But you watched it twice, Lizzie, and you disagree?
No. I haven't watched it twice. I watched it once and, took a lot of notes. Although I should note that as we are going in here, my husband is watching it for the second time and texting me updates. So we're going to get like John's stream of thought. I think he's sad that he's not on again.
Aww.
John, we miss you.
He's going to be so mad at me for saying that.
No, we do miss you, John, because this was, of all of the episodes, even more than the season 3 finale, I think, the sort of Mark Mylod virtuoso directing episode.
I see you want to talk to a director about it.
I mean, but there was great acting in this show, but just the way it was all constructed, the way that the majority of the show is basically one massively long scene, which apparently they kept a huge amount after shooting it for like 5 or 6 days. They did it all in one take and kept most of that one take. And that one scene it's incredibly theatrical. Like that one scene you could easily see on stage, and it felt intimate in the way that great theater can feel intimate.
And also isolating, if you're thinking about it from the kids' point of view, right? We're never seeing close-ups on Logan's face. We never have a sense of what the, paramedics or flight attendant or whoever are doing to him, right? Like this, I think I read something saying this is not a like Grey's Anatomy death where you are seeing the heroic measures. It's just really banal, and you're at a remove from it in the way the kids are at a remove.
I love that. Right. I mean, we've all seen people die on TV and in movies before, and it's one of my like secret pet peeves. I've never admitted to anyone, but I hate all the death scenes on TV and movies because they're so perfect and good. Everyone rushes to the hospital and gathers by the bedside, and you go in and you have your last words, and they're profound and meaningful. And that's just like not reality. I mean, maybe it is for a few lucky people, but I think most people experience death in this way. Like, feels like it came out of nowhere. You were just talking to someone like an hour before. You were just calling and leaving a voicemail, calling them a CUNT, as Roman was.
Are you a cunt, Dad? Just tell me. Are you a cunt?
And then this happens, and you're kind of like in like a suspended. It's in like you're in a feeling of suspense because you haven't realized the person is totally gone yet. You're in this like limbo feeling, and I feel like they really captured that in a way I very rarely have seen in
I was a little
platform.
I was a little sad not to see one last Brian Cox as Logan, being Logan scene. I mean, the personality was there at the beginning of the episode, but I think the last poignant moment with Logan was the karaoke conversation, the karaoke bar thing from last week.
There was that bit at the beginning in, when he's in the back of the car sitting next to Carrie, who's wearing her like stylish sunglasses, and he's torturing Roman just for the sake of torturing Roman, which is like a very Logan way to go. And it reminded me of Caroline, the mum, in season 3, where she said he never saw anything he loved that he didn't want to kick it just to see if it would still come back. And this was like the way he goes is by like kicking Roman.
Well, and that's what Roman likes.
And
that's,
he suspects
that's
that
the
he's
particular
doing it.
form of torture. Right, exactly.
Although he also hates it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's
Like,
that's Roman in a nutshell, right?
He is deeply and genuinely upset about what he needs to do to Jerry. And Jerry's just furious at him. She's like, she is so over this.
Yeah.
And she has no time for him, and she has no real sympathy for him. And he is also just self-pityingly upset at the fact that she won't be there for him in his hour of need. And she's like, fuck off, you just fired me.
It's funny
She's
because
tired of playing mommy to him. And so when he comes to her for comfort after he fires her, she's like, no, so you have to be a grown-up now. That's I'm out.
he actually tells her he's sad twice in this episode. Once when he's firing her, which is like the ultimate do not do for someone firing someone else. This hurts me more than you. And he says, I'm sad to be doing this. And then, at the end, he tells her again, I'm sad. And she's like, I don't give a fuck about your feelings. That's how it felt to me.
Which she clearly doesn't, I think.
No, but I think that
point.
was like the dick pics curdled that.
Right.
Right,
because she kind of blames the dick pics for getting fired, rightly or wrongly.
I mean, let's unpack this. That is why she got fired, right?
I think she got fired because Logan wanted to torture Roman, and he knew that this was the most exquisitely painful way of torturing Roman.
But he knew that
But
because
the
of the
dick
dick
pics were sort of the shorthand
Yeah.
for that. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. That's messed up. But I guess none of that matters now.
But this is Succession. That's the point.
Well, there's also, the point where you see Logan's callousness toward Connor in the car as well. When Roman asked him, why are you going to be there? And Logan says, oh, it's fine. We sent him some Napoleon things. And then that's just it. That's the extent of his paternal obligations.
Yeah, we sent him a, Hitler watercolor.
Yeah, if he wasn't such a dick, he would have not been on the plane and maybe would have lived a little bit longer, right?
Also, just
Yeah,
the
but also-
coincidence of the Napoleon things line the week that the news about Harlan Crow comes out with the Nazi memorabilia.
Exactly. Like, you wouldn't, this is the thing, they wouldn't have had Connor be a collector of actual Hitler watercolors, because that would have been too broad and unbelievable.
There need to be a remove. But I think Connor, which we can get into this because we see his reaction later in the episode, in some ways, since he is at a remove, since he is the first pancake, he doesn't get quite the degree of torturing that the other kids do. It shields him in some strange way when he was like, yeah, you didn't love me. Maybe not. But
Well, I think
that also meant that you didn't get, kind of danced on.
He said he never liked me.
Never liked
which is
me,
a very...
right.
And then he's like, I never got the opportunity to prove myself. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously, Mr. 1% and more isn't one. But he...
I think Logan tortures him by
redeems
not
himself.
taking him seriously and by being ambivalent, because that's what Connor wants the most is just, love from the family.
Love.
What Connor wants the most, Connor has a really interesting episode. I mean, the name of the episode is Connor's Wedding, and people are taking this as well, obviously that's not the thing that happens in the episode. Although
It does.
the thing is, it does happen in the episode. And there is this incredible moment of genuineness and truthfulness that Connor has after he finds out that his dad has died. Where he's talking to Willa, and he's like, could something good come out of something bad? And should we just send everyone away, obviously, because my dad just died, and then just get married anyway? And not because we're massively in love, but just because I need this, and, quote, I'm scared that if we don't, that you'll walk away. And it's just this very... It's just this brief glimpse of, true transparency from a Roy kid that you never see from any other Roy.
And then he asks her, are you just marrying me for the money? And she basically says yes.
Says,
Yes.
yeah. And he's like, that's okay.
Yeah. It's like,
Can I just...
great.
Can I just say, though, that, this is what I said to you, Felix, when we were about to come in here, which is that often, not always, but often, the episode titles are sort of laden with meaning, and they're sort of a little confusing, or they're funny, like Sad Sack Wasp Trap. But just Connor's Wedding is such a kind of wah name for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of it, I think, was misdirection to ramp up the surprise.
Yeah.
You know? But, I mean, I feel like I should have seen this coming. Right? Or, you know, all of
One
this.
of you did in the last episode.
Well, we didn't see. I mean,
sort of did.
Yeah, we kind of.
Which one of you said
that
he's
he was
going to
gonna die?
It was me.
This season.
That was you?
Yes.
Good job, Emily.
Yeah,
you.
good job, Emily. You come closest. But like, there was all of these hints. The weird like scene in the diner with Colin, and also just this idea that, as you say, if he's going to die, you need to give it some time for the implications to shake out.
I mean, yes, those were clues, but like, let's go back to the real clue. The name of the show is Succession. It is a show about what happens after the patriarch dies. So it makes a lot of sense that he would die early on in the last season. So we could see how the succession goes, right? I mean,
with a whole shit ton of people who've done like zero succession planning.
Zero. We had a question in our inbox about this.
We had an email about this, which is a very good email, and so I'm going to call it up right here. And we love our readers. We don't love our readers. We love our listeners because they're amazing. Elizabeth Weeks, who emailed in at 2:07 a.m. Bless you, Elizabeth, saying, I'm not a securities or corporate governance attorney, but don't large companies normally have pre-baked comms playbooks and maybe even statements for certain crises like the CEO of a publicly traded company dying? Is this creative license or am I just wrong? And I'm going to come out and say, and Lizzie, tell me if you disagree on this one, that major things like a CEO dying unexpectedly turn out to be a corporate comms shit show way more often than you would actually expect. And just to throw an extra little wrinkle in here, I'm pretty sure he wasn't the CEO. I think that
chairman.
Jerry is still the CEO.
Oh my gosh. And has she really been fired? Not really. She's still...
No, she has not really been fired.
Well, she's been sort of like pre-fired.
Yeah,
she's been pre-fired. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. You're making me think of a conversation I had with a reporter who covers Tesla, whose beat is Tesla, and I was asking her about like what's the Tesla succession plan? Like you have this board, this sort of small handpicked board, and she's like, oh yeah, there isn't one. And there are some activist investors, there are some other people who would really like there to be a succession plan, but there is definitely not one. I think you're not wrong that maybe there are some small parts of a plan in place, but there isn't one. Carolina's like the only person who seems to have her head around that part of it. But then I was also like, does the man, I mean, he must have a will. He must have like a heavily lawyered will and a series of trusts and estates.
Yeah, but that's his personal ownership.
Sure.
Which of course is inextricably intertwined.
Right.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, the degree of succession planning, like it is the one job of any board to make sure that there is decent succession planning.
But when you've got a board that's handpicked by your chairman, founder, CEO, whatever, and is terrified of him.
Yeah, but the thing about board chairs, especially board chairs in the mold of Logan Roy, is they all think they're immortal and they don't care really what happens. And they're very bad at it. And we should mention, because we teased this last week, Abigail Disney was meant to be on this week. She couldn't make it, but she's going to be on later in the show. And we're going to ask her about this because Disney is actually a headline-grabbing company where, they were just incredibly bad at succession planning. And Disney is a much better-run company than Waystar Royco, I can tell you that.
What did, it's sort of a question I wish I could ask Jim Stewart right now. What happened when Sumner Redstone died?
Like, Sumner got so old and so senile that he had to sort of lose control long before he died.
I was just trying to find an analog, and calling off your wedding at 92 is not the same as dying.
One interesting analog is Robert Maxwell, who owned a lot of major media properties and then died very suddenly, falling over the edge of a yacht.
You can't see what I'm doing with my arm, which is pantomiming going off the edge of a yacht.
And basically what happened when Robert Maxwell died was his entire empire just completely imploded almost immediately.
Yeah.
Which is definitely one of the possible options here.
So we could see one of the Roy children like deciding to hitch their star to a. Ew, no, I can't even go this far. Gross.
No,
Never
I
mind.
think, we don't quite know what is going to happen over the long term to the Roy kids. I mean, except for that they're all going to be fucked up for the rest of their lives.
As opposed to now.
We do know, obviously, that they are all going to want to take over Waystar Royco. Obviously, Mattson is still going to want to take over Waystar Royco. I'm pretty sure that Jerry, as CEO, is not in any rush to give up her role as CEO, assuming that she still is. It's a bit unclear. And, for all we know, fucking, they all want it. Frank and Tom and Cousin Greg.
There's a little teaser at the end where, they're all in the room after the funeral and Cousin Greg comes barging in and says that he's there because he just wants to make sure that they're all supportive of each other as family, and he wants to see how things shake down. And he means to say shake out, and then that's the sort of cliffhanger.
Greg's really on the outs in this episode. There's a scene where he tries to put his hand on Shiv's arm, and she's like, don't touch me. And he's just really like walled off from everyone. And I think Tom at the beginning or in the middle of the episode says to him he's on Logan's shit list, basically. So he's not in a good place right now.
Although then he gets that phone call from Tom, and like that's the other point at which one character is, emotionally vulnerable and transparent to another character. It's not just Connor with Willa, it's also Tom with Greg when he calls him from the bedroom of the plane and is like, this is good for you, but it's terrible for me. I've lost my protector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's in a really bad, they're actually both in a really bad place without Logan. Yeah. And so is Carrie. I mean, you could see that in the scene where she comes in, she acts all strange and smiley after Logan dies. And they just
there was a
kick her out.
Speculation on Twitter that she came in with a big smile and this sort of unhinged looking face because she might be pregnant with Logan's baby, which would be an amazing plot twist.
Wow, that would be quite amazing.
Ew. Sorry.
Wow. Yeah, but I love that because it just showed like there are some people that just have no stake anymore with him gone. It's like he had people on his coattails. He died, and they
literally
just fell
everyone,
off.
Right? I mean, with the exception of Lucas Mattson, there's no one who isn't in their position because of patronage from Logan in one way or another.
Right, but some of that patronage is longer lasting than others kind, right? I mean, if you're
who is it Carl who's like, I've worked for this guy for 40 years,
Yeah, they're best buds.
I think it's, one of them. Can I just talk about how Tom was weirdly competent? Like up into a point, but he's sort of the only person who seems to straddle the line between being like considerate with the kids and also kind of making things move forward on the plane.
Like they keep on saying, "Is he okay? Is he okay?" And he's like, "No, he's not okay. He's not sugarcoating it. He's not like lying to them. They want him to lie to them, and he won't. But he's also being kind, and he's also like holding the phone up to the ear. And that amazing line he has where he's like, if he can hear, he'll be able to hear you."
Great.
I think this is the most competent we've ever seen him be.
It's him being like rising to the occasion as best he can. He's even there to he gives Shiv a hug. She like pushes him away, but then I don't know if you noticed, they leave together from the airport in a car next to each other.
Didn't notice that.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, they do.
The intrigue. Yeah, there was a lot of good hugs in this episode, right? There's an iconic hug between the three siblings.
Like all three-way hugs are awkward. Like, have you ever had like a genuine three-way hug? It's really hard to do.
It was a good one, though. I saw it all over Twitter this morning. That's the kind of fun we usually tape in advance of all the chatter because we watch a screener and we don't get to see how everything plays out, on Twitter or whatever. But so it was nice this morning to sort of see that.
Yeah, the last time those three were ever gonna, be able to like each other before they all start trying to knife each other in the back again.
Right. Well, it just shows. I mean, it was an extraordinary episode in hitting that Succession theme of personal and business all mixed up together because it's super personal when your father dies, but then immediately you have to be like, well, this day, the SEC is going to be looking at it for us. The scene where Kendall reminds them, this isn't just a personal thing. It's not just about us. It's like how we will be perceived by the regulators. And they all get sucked back into the business right away.
It's very self-aware, right? When he's like, we are highly liable to misinterpretation.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. And then he
Yes.
proceeds to, kind of muscle in there as
Shiv,
trying to be the guy.
This is where Shiv's political instincts go completely off the rails.
Have we ever seen her have a good political instinct? I'm sorry, she was supposed to be an operator, but I'm thinking back to her just flailing political instincts.
Oh, because she wants the plane to circle? God, could you imagine the news story writes itself? Roy Kidd's ass plane to I don't even know. What would the conclusion be? What are they doing?
They were trying to kill him. That if he wasn't already...
to wait.
Right,
yes,
right. Yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Didn't want him to get the best airplane doctor in the world.
Just let it circle till he dies, and then they
But she
everything.
rises to the occasion, right? That when the three kids confront Logan at the end of season 3 and say, you're not selling the company, we can block it. They're in this sort of triangle formation with Shiv at the front. When the three kids come out to face the press and give the official press release announcement that Logan has died, they're in the triangle formation with Shiv at the front. She's the one who has actually written down the statement, who has drafted it, who delivers it. The two boys are silent behind her.
Yeah.
You think that is prescient, Felix?
You mean in terms of her wanting to take over? I'm sure she wants to take over.
They can't all. You can have a plot with 10 people wanting to take over. That would be.
I think that's exactly what we're going to have.
I think that would be too weird to follow. You got to narrow some things down. You have to forge some alliances, right, Elizabeth?
Do you have to kill some more characters to just eliminate possibilities?
Marsha's got to come back, I think.
Oh, she's not shopping forever.
She's still the wife. He leaves behind
But I
a
don't
wife.
think-
Also, they keep
I think
teasing Connor's mom. That keeps, they allude to it again. She's got to emerge at some point.
The loony cake. How sad was that, you guys?
So sad.
Give him a dab of sugar so he eats the cake all week while his mom gets shipped off to some kind of institution.
Victoria sponge cake. It's so sad.
I just Connor.
What matters, of course, is shareholdings, right? So it's actually not Marsha, it's Caroline. It's, the three kids' mom who has that large chunk of shares. Possibly Ewan. Has he given all of his shares to Greenpeace now?
It was in the LA Times.
So suddenly Greenpeace
In their obit?
Yeah.
But one assumes that upon receiving these shares, Greenpeace immediately sold them, and then it's not like Greenpeace is a major shareholder.
So they're back out in the market.
So who are the shareholders? It's 3.5 kids. It's unclear.
Sandy and Stewie.
Sandy and Stewie, Caroline.
Stewie and the Sandys. Is that what he did? I can't remember now.
The Sandy is definitely on that Sumner. Sandy Senior is doing the Sumner Redstone, just very senile thing.
Yeah, so it's the three kids. It's Sandy and Stewie. It's Caroline, and then I don't know. I think.
I mean, do you think Sandy Jr. would want to take over?
Nah.
I don't know that we've had enough character. I mean, Hope Davis is a great actress, but I don't know if we've had enough character development for that to.
I think there's going to be
her to
3
really throw her hand in the ring.
factions, but maybe I'm wrong because maybe they'll split the kids up. But it seems like kids.
Adrian Brody, whatever percent he owns.
Oh, I forgot about him.
Maybe he'll
guy?
come back. But yeah, I think in terms of sheer competence and ability to, let me just quote here, to dance us through a fucking thunderstorm without us getting wet. I think pretty clearly Jerry is probably, who is the CEO, is probably the most competent person to run the company, but also has no constituency, has no one really supporting her.
Right. No,
and
no
therefore,
one's really,
it's going to be very unlikely that the board is going to wind up alighting upon Jerry. She's still the placeholder CEO pending some more permanent
I mean, I wrote that Kendall is also surprisingly competent, and then my notes continue, whoops, until he wants to speak to the pilot. But he was, like, Kendall has flashes of competence.
No, like, in this one, he didn't, right? In this one, he was flailing around, and he was just, like, phoning up his assistant and saying, like, put a call together in the next 1 minute. And you're like, that's just him trying to feel like he's doing something. It's not him actually being helpful in any way at all.
Yeah, no, that's true. But like I feel like he has these kind of gestures toward competence, like empty suit gestures toward competence, and then he gets derailed. I think it was Elizabeth in one of your episodes talking about his mishmash business jargon, where he just starts speaking in strange jargon sentences.
He's good at like pretend. He's good at like cosplaying a media exec.
Yes.
But he's shown no actual ability to do it.
I think the best move is to just let this deal go through with the Swede, cash out, and just have ATN left.
Yeah, but this is an MAE, right? This is a material adverse event in terms of Matsson. So Matsson, like, it's interesting now, like, did Matsson consider Logan to be an asset or a liability? And does that make Waystar Royco more or less attractive to him? And or, like, now that Logan is gone, there was this one conversation which Tom had with Logan at the foot of the plane, where Tom was basically saying that what Matsson wanted was ATN because ATN is being spun out, right? And the idea was that Logan was going to turn it into a bunch of fucking pirates.
He gets to keep it and then the other stuff.
Logan gets to keep ATN while Matsson gets everything else. But now that Logan is gone, it seems more likely that Matsson is going to be angling to take over ATN as well and the whole kit and caboodle. So
also,
there is going to be some kind of renegotiation.
Yeah, also there's a scene where Roman picks up his phone and shows the stock price falling off a cliff. Says, "Yep, there's Dad."
Yeah, the continuity thing. We need to talk about this because Jerry is like, you want to hold the news until after the markets close, and you're like, wait, the markets are open? Isn't this meant to be a wedding? Like, I don't think Connor's getting married on a Friday afternoon.
No, I mean, I was wondering about that too, and I was like, that could be like pre-market trading. Be like people trading options on. I don't know. I was trying to figure out what that was.
I think that like, and then it didn't make any sense to me. Emily, do you think that this was all happening at like 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon?
Yeah, it seemed like it was a Saturday wedding, and I didn't understand that either. But I was like, wait till the markets close, but they are closed. So is the chart from Monday when they? Oh, it. I don't think it made sense. Write to us and tell us if we're wrong here, but I think it was just artistic.
I just sort of assumed it was like one of those, frantic government bailout weekends.
Exactly, but the whole point about frantic government bailout weekends
is their weekends,
and there are no markets open, and they need to do everything before markets open.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. I think the practical and smart thing to do, if this wasn't a TV show, would just be to sell it all to this Lucas guy and just walk away and be rich and just stop.
They've
had that chance, like.
Well, no, but the point, as of season 4, episode 1, that's basically where all the kids are, right? They have all made their peace with that's what's going to happen, and they're all going to be rich, and they're all going to go along, and they're going to do random things, Substack meets Masterclass meets The Economist meets The New Yorker, or buy a PS or whatever, right? But that is all because they have given up on the dream of actually running Waystar Royco, which is their legacy, which is what they've been brought up to do. Now that dream is rekindled.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They've lost their son. Like, they all orbited around Logan, and now he's gone, and now they're just off in space, and it's really unclear what happens next. But I guess it does make sense that the dream is revived, and what happens next is they jockey to have the company. This family business that Shiv talks about.
Right. The family
business. So that really jumped out at me, right? That was Shiv sending a very clear message to Frank and Carl and Jerry
and the press.
Sandy and Stewie and the press, and saying, like, this is the Roy family business. It's called Waystar Royco, and, don't think that just because Logan's died, it isn't still Royco.
Yeah.
Ignore my depression, mom bun. Please, let us have our company.
But at least they all had the prescience to turn up to Connor's wedding wearing black.
I mean, who is the?
It's appropriate either way.
Whoever the costume designer is, they're friggin' genius.
We'll be back after This Is the Media Industry After All. Some ads. We are going to talk about how everyone reacted to the news of the death of the patriarch.
It's time to reboot your credit card with Apple Card. You work hard for your money, so you should be able to spend it on the things you actually want. With Apple Card, you can kiss fees goodbye. There aren't and never will be any annual foreign transaction late or over-the-limit fees, not even hidden ones. Apply now in the Wallet app on iPhone and start using it right away. Subject to credit approval, late or missed payments will result in additional interest accumulating toward your balance. Variable APRs for Apple Card range from 15.49% to 26.49% based on creditworthiness. Rates as of March 1st, 2023. This episode is brought to you by Bank of America. If you own or operate a business, whether it's a local operation or a global corporation, partnering with Bank of America could be your smartest move. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll enjoy exclusive digital tools, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful you'll make every move matter. Position your business to capitalize on opportunity in a moment's notice. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Copyright 2023.
This episode is brought to you by Sax.com. Sax.com editors are always tracking the top styles that are trending right now. Tailored blazers and midi dresses are selling out at Sax.com, especially from brands like Veronica Beard and The Row. And Sax.com editors are seeing Loewe's oversized tote on the streets of New York, Milan, and Paris. If you want your own free personalized trend recommendations, Sax.com stylists can do that and more. Plus, there's free shipping and returns all the time at Sax.com.
So let's talk about the meat of the episode, the main scene, right? There is, it's super interesting because it actually happens in two different locations. It starts on the second floor of the sort of temporary pavilion that they've constructed on Pier 17 in New York City. And then, for reasons that are never really explained in the script, they get ushered into the top floor of the boat. And Logan is almost certainly dead from like the minute that Tom's phone call goes through, but we don't know. Like, there's a sort of moment of finality when they get onto the boat. They stop the CPR. And that is the point at which, like, even Roman kind of basically understands that his dad is dead. And that is the point in the show where the boat pulls away from the pier and suddenly, like, the camera work becomes much more sort of seasick and the whole family is literally sort of unmoored. And it's a super interesting device. But you barely notice it because the two sets, like the onshore set and the boat set, are very similar in many ways.
They're both tacky.
Yeah.
It's a really tacky boat, tacky setup. Like, no aspect of that is in any way befitting a rich person wedding. They've got like tacky political rally bunting.
And the tacky, like, brass band playing.
There was, in fact, a brass band.
And they do it at, you know, what we New Yorkers know to be one of the tackiest parts of New York City. I mean, like, why would Connor choose to get married in New York City of all places? The reason, surely, is because that's where the media is, right? Yeah. And so it's like he gets some quantum of extra free media coverage for doing it down in Lower
Well,
Manhattan.
he did, pitch Willa on having this very public spectacle-driven wedding because he thought it would help his political career. So some of it, maybe this is his idea of what a more middle-class person might do for their wedding.
But in the end, like the actual wedding with 3 bridesmaids and that's it, and not even her mum, as far as I can tell, is her mum was amazing. But the actual wedding was quite touching in its own way. Like there was no spectacle. Everyone's been sent home, and it's just them, against the Brooklyn skyline, just saying like, okay,
This is good enough.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of sweet.
I'm not going to
sad.
walk away today.
It was kind of sweet.
It was sweet.
Yeah. Or at least they're honest between them, which is not. You couldn't say that for all the other couples in succession, actually. There's a lack
Or
of
any
pairings, any relationships. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, except for maybe Logan and Colin. Poor adrift Colin.
Yeah.
I know I'm jumping around. Felix, you want to talk about
jumping around is good,
but like the look on Colin's face. Someone, I don't know if it was Vulture or something I read on Twitter, someone described it as like a dog who's lost its master.
Oh.
Yeah. No, Colin has no raison d'etre anymore. And, he remembers it was just a couple days ago, right? That Logan told him, "You're my only friend."
Talk about whether or not there's an afterlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said no, right? Is my recollection. Logan didn't.
Logan
Colin
arrived
said yes.
unknown. Colin said, like, my dad thinks there is, or something like that.
And so
Colin strikes me as someone who was brought up Catholic. Colin feels like a real, like, Irish dude.
yeah. So now it's like
Could be projecting.
it's so significant episodes. The first few episodes of the season, like now it's clear, like Logan's last words to his kids were, "I love you, but you're not serious people," which is both like pretty decent last words, if you ask me. Salty and sweet. Nice. But he tells them he loves them, so that's good. Roman didn't even say,
I love you, but is always a good.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what Kendall, it was really interesting
Right.
how they all did their last, call, hold up the phone to Logan's ear call. And like Roman can't even say, "I love you." But then later he can't even remember if he did or did not say, "I love you." Kendall does say, "I love you," but then he says something like, "I can't forgive you."
Yep.
Right. "I love you, but I can't forgive you" is a great line.
And it's okay.
Yeah. And then Shiv just does, I thought she was maybe had the best call. Certainly he was dead by the time she was saying these words to him, but she handled it pretty well. She said something like, "I love you," like, "Daddy, I love you," or something like that. Everything's okay,
She
right?
keeps calling him daddy.
Yeah.
That was the part that really got to me. Like Sarah Snook's physical acting in that moment, the
Right.
shaking hands, we have seen her sort of physically unraveling over the past few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the hair and the, hair elastic bun was part of that. But
It all comes back to
in
that
terms
bun
of
for you,
physical,
Lizzie.
in terms of
it's
physical
how I'm wearing my hair right now.
unraveling, no one physically unraveled quite as much as Jerry in this episode, who turns up incredibly put together with this amazing hat, and then
Just for like the wrong wedding.
and then like, gets fired, starts crying, and then like hears that Logan dies, the hat disappears, and suddenly the hair is down, and like she just looks bedraggled.
Yeah. I guess what I'm been sort of so focused on the arc of Shiv's unraveling and the arc of her like weird clothes over the past couple of episodes that I wasn't even focused on Jerry. But you're right. Also, what's up with Jerry's hat? Like that hat belonged at either the English wedding or the
Definitely.
Italian wedding,
Or the
not
Scottish wedding.
Right, the Scottish wedding. Excuse me.
Wait, Lizzie,
Yeah.
what
Yes.
weird clothes? What are you talking about?
Shiv's clothes. So Shiv has had like everything has been in brown except for this episode.
Well, there was
She
the
has
gray
not
suit
had.
in the last episode.
She hasn't been as crisp.
Right.
Her hair, if you look at her hair, it hasn't had that like sleek blowout that we saw in the last couple of seasons. So she's somewhere in between her like first season long floppy cardigan and her like power suits. I feel like they're like stabs at power suits, but they're coming apart.
And what's coming apart for her? It's her marriage mostly that's doing this to
Her marriage is coming
Yeah.
apart, and I think her any ability she might have had to control her emotions is coming apart.
Yeah, she doesn't have that ability in this episode. Although she does deliver the statement to the press she does a decent job, I thought. That's exactly what you would want her to seem like. The daughter of the multi-billionaire who just died. Yeah.
Like you actually want the tears.
Yeah. You want a little tears, not
a little
too
tears,
much.
not incapacitating tears, humanizing tears.
But then there's that amazing line where Jerry's like, she turns to the kids and she's like, if you want, we can excuse you from the board meeting on compassionate grounds.
If you want.
And yeah, like, Jerry, read the room. But to your point, Lizzie, who's going to be smart enough to get Colin on board? Because he knows where all of the bodies are buried.
But like, he does. But will Colin, like, who do Collins's allegiances
exactly.
now
Colin has no
to?
obvious. That's the question. Like
he covered up for Kendall.
But he covered up for Kendall at the behest of
Roman in like a creepy
Logan.
way, right?
And like, I don't think Colin likes Kendall. In fact, we're pretty sure he doesn't. So like, we're pretty sure that Kendall is going to make some kind of a move to take over the company because he's Kendall. And so then at that point, it's Roman and Shiv know the whole story now, but so does Colin. And who does Colin tell? And does Tom find out via Colin? Did Shiv tell Tom at some point?
What was in Tom's folder called logistics that needed to be deleted and then deleted again?
I have that.
Is
note
that all
too.
just stuff on Sid Peach?
What is it? What is the logistics file about?
What is it?
Yeah.
We need to know.
Did Greg manage to make it back to delete the file? Probably not.
No. Did Greg tell the report? Like, who leaked it to the press, or did the press just put it together?
Oh my God! And then that amazing bit where Carolina like casually tries to shiv Kerry by saying like maybe it was Kerry.
Yes, amazing. She comes off as the most competent in the episode.
Yes,
Carolina.
Yes,
proud of her.
But she's always been pretty competent.
That's
Icy
true.
but competent.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the one who has no real emotional connection.
No, she has like
Logan.
also a very specific job. I think a lot of the rest of them, especially like, I don't know what the difference is between what Carl does and what Frank does.
Yes, good
right.
point.
Like
Exactly.
they just have this like amorphous job. I don't know. I'm
But
so happy to have Carl in an episode. I love Carl.
But in terms of like the difference between jobs,
Such
there's
an
a
idiot.
super interesting distinction between Carolina's job and Hugo's job, right? They're both like comms, but Hugo is at a sort of higher level of being the sort of consigliere to the CEO in the way that Carolina is actually doing the comms.
Oh, it's funny. I don't see it that way. I see her as above him.
Definitely.
Oh, interesting.
I kind of
I saw her as
handling
external focused and
corporate
him as
stuff.
like
Yeah.
fixing the
like she's
I agree with
IR
Elizabeth on
and
this.
he's like personal comms, you know.
Yeah.
Because he's given the unenviable task in this episode of being the liaison between the kids and the corporates. And it's a disaster. They're telling him what to do. They're like, get out of here. Get me this person on the phone. And he's getting...
Well, he was also the guy that like Logan gave the job of like phoning up the other board members, in the last episode. He has a job which involves like actually talking to shareholders, major shareholders. I don't know. They're both, it's hard to tell exactly where the delineations lie, but they do seem to be comfortable with each other. They're not like backstabbing each other.
Right. Fair.
But
fair.
I do feel she doesn't like him because he is completely unlikable. That's
he's
true,
squishy.
right? He's icky.
He's icky.
He is
There's something
icky.
icky about him.
Yeah.
You don't know really where he stands. He stands wherever the power is, and he just tries to ingratiate himself to it. We've seen that in previous seasons. Although that's what they all do, right? I don't even know what I'm talking about. They all do that. Which is why when they had the group hug, it was so nice. Anytime there's any real emotions between them, it's like, oh, thank God. This is just a story about a family.
It was and is like a deeply fraught and emotional episode. Like there aren't a lot of funny lines in this episode.
There are still some.
Were you guys
No, but there was
sad?
also-
Wait, can I just ask everyone to tell me their feelings? Did you feel sad?
I'm English. I don't have feelings.
Okay, Felix has no feelings. Got it.
I'm Irish. I keep my feelings inside for a long time and then explode.
I have one feeling.
What's your feeling? I was sad. Yeah. But I also, so the moment, okay, there's a whole back and forth about like whether they're going to go on the plane and see Logan's body or whatever. And this is a little personal, but when they bring him down, when they bring his body down off the plane, I was reminded of, so when my stepfather died, the hospice nurse told us to leave the house. She was like, go take a walk. You don't actually want to see a body bag being carried out of the house because there is something so, they're not a person anymore. They're such an object, and the bag in and of itself like transforms them even more, and they're just being like handled by some strong dudes. And the fact that we saw that with Logan, we saw this Titan being like the weight in a bag was just so deflating and so, I don't know.
I think it's also just a moment of finality after, you have Roman being in denial for so long that he was really dead. And that would be the sort of visual indicator that this is really happening,
Elizabeth, you said you had a feeling.
What was your feeling, Elizabeth?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just generally have one feeling, singular.
What's your one feeling, Elizabeth? The one catch-all feeling.
I'm pretty even keel, but I will say the part that was the most poignant for me was when they first found out that when Tom first called Roman, and Roman's standing there with the phone and Kindle, and just the panic response that they have, like that was very relatable to me. And then you sort of realize that this episode is going in a totally different direction.
Yeah. And it's interesting. They all always have great like burns that they deliver to each other that we recite here gleefully. But all they could say about this, they each said like, I'm sad. Like that was all they could come up with,
When is this a test? That was like a brief moment. Like I could envision some kind of really warped Logan.
Totally.
Test.
Yeah. I thought that too. I'm like, this isn't really happening, is it? And then you kind of are like, oh yeah, no, it is. Oh, it really is. And then when Shiv says he was pronounced dead, you're like, okay, definitely he's dead. It took me until then to really accept it.
And when like, when they're like, how are we going to get the body off the plane? And Hugo's like, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, it's stairs.
You just love Hugo.
Yeah. Hugo, just carry it.
What's your deal with Hugo, Felix?
What's my deal with Hugo? Like there's something
he's just
very...
like a squirrely little...
He's an insect.
Yeah. Yee.
But Fisher Stevens has such an amazing like physiognomy, you know? It's like there's this amazing feeling of not fitting in just right there. Okay, we're going to have a quick break for ads, and then when we come back, not only the favorite lines, but also who is going to be running this company at the end of episode 10.
Hey, Tom Sharpling here, the host of The Best Show. And if you've never heard of The Best Show before, everything you need to know is right there in the title. Each week we put on the best live podcast you're ever going to hear, featuring live callers, celebrity guests, music, plenty of surprises. Who knows what's going to happen? Last month alone, we were joined by Conan O'Brien, Patricia Arquette, Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, Nathan Fielder, Sunan Archives, John Oliver. The list goes on and on. So what are you waiting for? Join us live every Tuesday night on Twitch at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and find us the next day on the Forever Dog Podcast Network and wherever you find podcasts.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Heidecker. You know me, Tim and Eric, Bridesmaids, and Fantastic Four. I'd like to personally invite you to listen to Office Hours Live with me and my co-hosts, DJ Doug Pound.
Hello.
And Vic Berger.
Howdy.
Every week we bring you laughs, fun, games, and lots of other surprises. It's live. We take your Zoom calls.
Music.
We love having fun. Excuse me?
Songs. Vic said something. Music.
Songs.
Music.
I like having fun. I like to laugh. I like to meet people who can make me laugh. Please subscribe now.
Okay, Lizzie.
Yeah.
You did have one or two lines you managed to write down.
I don't want to take the great ones from everyone, so I'm going to
go first. You're our honored guest this week, so you get to take your pick.
Well, I mentioned my soft spot for Carl, just because I feel like Carl is this like wonderful font of just pathetic comic relief. I love, first of all, that he just like gets out the whatever that is, whiskey, and starts drinking on the plane. But then my favorite was Carl's like, oh, he's heavily fucking delayed. And they're trying to think about like ways to like keep Madsen spinning in the air. Like, what do they do? Like, oh, we could say he's delayed. He's heavily fucking delayed.
I will say, certainly in the wake of the episode, I did feel the need to pour myself a whiskey. This was definitely like a I need a whiskey episode.
It took me a while to calm down. It was a CBD gummy episode for me.
Elizabeth, did you have any lines?
I had a couple, and one isn't really a line. This is the headline on the Chiron in front of the Braco building this week was "Man with bird flu can't stop thinking of ducks."
Oh boy,
so good.
But then my second one was when Tom was explaining to Greg that he wasn't coming to Stockholm, and Greg keeps asking, well, can I talk to Logan directly? Are you sure you don't need me? And Tom says something like, no, I have a lot of people Gregging for me. And Greg says, don't turn me into a word, Tom. I'm a guy. Why do you have all these little guys? These little Gregs.
Greglets.
Greglets.
Some Greglets.
Emily.
I think I liked Kendall when they were talking about arrangements for funerals, and he's like, we can do Reagan's with tweaks.
We'll get a funeral off the rack.
Get off the rack.
That was such a great...
I don't think you can do Reagan's with tweaks. That was like...
I don't think you could do
president.
Reagan's with tweaks. No.
You can't tweak Reagan.
Can't do it.
There was like, the sort of misdirection pre-episode before everything went to shit. Like there were a couple of like one of the interesting things about Connor suddenly being genuine is that earlier on in that exact same episode, he turns to Willa's mum and says, Mr. Scrooge just happened to be a huge wealth creator, but they don't mention that in Mr. Dickens' books, do they?
No, they do not.
They do not. But I think the one, if I had to pick one, it would probably be Tom greeting Logan coming out of the car and saying, "Hail Loganus Maximus, Slayer of Vikings." And you're like, wow.
What a tool. Greg also had, I have a little list of nice things to say to Carrie. He had a good one at the reporter, too. What did he say?
Says, well, that sounds creepy. Or no, it wasn't Tom.
Yes. Was it taking quotes and kicking ass or something like that? Journalism? Taking quotes and kicking ass? I could be butchering it. Yeah, they packed the good stuff before the death.
We needed a little bit of it. And then I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good stuff to come. But okay, so just lay the groundwork for us, Lizzie. Who is going to be running this company at the end of episode 10?
Felix, you really... Okay. You've rendered me speechless. I have two answers. At the end of the season, my answers are Lucas Madsen and Kendall. But I think Kendall. It's a terrible idea, but I think Kendall. Is that weird?
Yeah,
You're looking at me like it's the most unsatisfactory answer you have ever heard.
But I think, in a weird way, like that's very Succession, right? They wind up with some deeply unsatisfactory solution, which is clearly going to last for like 5 minutes, and
they're not going to land on something great.
But that's the whole point. Like corporate CEOs, especially the ones who aren't founders, don't last very long, and there will be a sort of dynamic inevitability of failure overhanging whoever is in that position.
Maybe they all die. Maybe it ends like Reservoir Dogs. I don't know.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's in keeping with this show that it would be somebody you wouldn't necessarily expect. I thought in the first season that it would definitely be Kendall because he had seemingly more depth than some of the other characters. But I feel like anything could happen. They could all die in a plane crash and Cousin Greg gets the company. Like, I really don't know.
I feel like Roman and Shiv have enough oppo on Kendall at this point that it's not possible.
Maybe the three
But
of
Emily,
them.
what do you think?
I think maybe the three of them work something out. And, well,
But what do they work out?
Well, I think that the Swede does his deal, and they're left with ATN, and that weird Nazi becomes the president. And
Oh, right, that guy. We got a glimpse of him in the coming attractions.
Exactly. They teased him in the coming attractions. So, yeah, so they're left with ATN, but it's like this crazy propaganda machine, and maybe Shiv drops out or something. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I
Something
mean,
Murdoch-y.
it's true. We don't really care about what happens to the film studio and the theme parks, and if Mattson takes them over, it's like fine.
Mm-hmm.
That ATN is the thing we care about.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't believe I'm so thrown for a loop by this incredibly obvious question. But
The
I
driving
guess
question
so
of the whole show.
of the whole show, but so is literally everyone else. Like no one else in the show can get it straight.
Right. Because there's no plan.
There could well be some surprises in Logan's will. I'm just gonna come in out of left field here and make a play, because in what the English love to call the banter heuristic, which is basically this idea that like whatever's funniest and stupidest is always what happens. I think it's going to be Tom.
Yeah, maybe.
And that Tom becomes like this Philip Doman figure who, like, you know, gives good son and winds up taking over the whole company.
That makes
Tom
sense
from
because he's
Minnesota.
like the grasping overachiever. Like he's climbing and climbing. He really wants
You
it
also
in a way
see
that
him
kids don't.
failing up through the series.
Yeah.
The kids are too
He is-
spoiled to like ultimately.
He is like
get it.
the ultimate mediocre white man.
And
He's
he
really Tom.
does have a predilection for human furniture, which is always a good qualification in a media CEO.
But is he no longer saddled with cruises in any way? I guess they hang that on Jerry and just
Literally hang. I mean, that was like pretty much Logan's last words. It's like we hang cruises around Jerry's neck.
classy till the
Yeah.
end.
Classy till the end.
so
Logan.
then maybe we come down to a battle between the siblings and Tom for control of the company.
Maybe Tom and
Wow.
Shiv get back together. And
Well, I think they're in this weird place where they're like, she emotionally needs him in some sick way, and they drove off together, and maybe that tees it up to be even more of a thing.
so many
All right,
questions.
so episode 4, I guess it's going to be the board meeting, right? It was literally, they said it's going to be in
Yeah.
a matter of hours. So the kids will be there. And probably Tom will be there. Obviously, Frank and Carl and Jerry will be there. One of Sandy and Stewie will be there.
I think they'll both be there.
Maybe they'll both be there.
They're both such great actors. You want to see them both.
Yeah, this is going to be a wild board meeting. And I guess someone has to have control. How do you have a board meeting without a board chair? You have to elect a board chair before you elect the CEO. I mean, the whole thing is going to be a shit show.
Can't wait.
Thank you not only to Elizabeth Weeks, but to everyone else who emails us and asks us good questions. Keep them coming at slatemoney@slate.com. Thanks to Ben Richmond for being the producer at this end in New York, and to Patrick Fort for being the producer of the whole show. We'll be back next week.
Hey, Tom Sharpling here, the host of The Best Show. And if you've never heard of The Best Show before, everything you need to know is right there in the title. Each week we put on the best live podcast you're ever going to hear, featuring live callers, celebrity guests, music, plenty of surprises. Who knows what's going to happen? Last month alone, we were joined by Conan O'Brien, Patricia Arquette, Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, Nathan Fielder, Sunan Archives, John Oliver. The list goes on and on. So what are you waiting for? Join us live every Tuesday night on Twitch at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and find us the next day on the Forever Dog Podcast Network and wherever you find podcasts.